The salvage yard stretched endlessly under the twin suns of Kepler. 442b, a graveyard of twisted metal and broken dreams that had accumulated over 3 centuries of human expansion into the Outer Rim territories. Maya Chun wiped grease from her hands as she emerged from the belly of a decommissioned cargo hauler, her tool belt jangling with improvised instruments that would make any certified engineer shake their head in disapproval. At 17, she had already earned a reputation among the scavenger crews as someone who could make dead ships sing again, though her methods were considered unorthodox at best. "Maya, you need to see this," called Jake Morrison from across the yard, his voice carrying an excitement that immediately put her on alert. Jake was 2 years older and had been working the salvage circuit since he was 14 when his parents died in a reactor breach on Titan Station. His instincts for valuable salvage were legendary, but his tone suggested this was something beyond the usual haul of exotic metals and functional components. She jogged through the maze of stacked hull plates and engine cores, dodging the automated sorting drones that Sal Kowalski used to organize his operation. The old Polish engineer had taken in dozens of orphan kids over the years, teaching them to see value where others saw only scrap. His yard was technically registered as a vocational training facility, which kept the colonial administration happy and provided a steady stream of skilled technicians for the Rim colonies. Jake stood before what appeared to be a section of bulkhead, but as Maya approached, she realized it was far larger than anything she had seen before. The metal had an unusual blue-green tint that seemed to shift in the light, and strange geometric patterns were etched into its surface with mathematical precision. Most striking were the symbols scattered across its expanse, clearly artificial, but unlike any human writing system. "Where did Sal get this?" Maya asked, running her fingers along the smooth surface. The metal felt warm despite having sat in the yard storage section for who knows how long. "That's the weird part," Jake replied, pulling out his scanner. According to the manifest, this came in with a batch of debris from the Helix Nebula expedition 3 months ago. But look at these readings. The scanner's display showed energy signatures that made no sense. The metal wasn't just warm. It was generating power, somehow converting ambient radiation into usable energy through a process their equipment couldn't identify. Maya's engineering background, largely self-taught through necessity and salvage work, told her this was impossible according to human understanding of physics. "We need to tell Sal about this," she said, but Jake grabbed her arm. "He's in town dealing with the colonial inspectors. Won't be back until tomorrow. Besides, look at this." He pointed to a section where the geometric patterns seemed to form a coherent design. "I think this might be a control interface." Maya studied the symbols more carefully. There was something familiar about their arrangement, a logic that reminded her of the programming languages she had taught herself while repairing ship computers. Many of the symbols repeated in specific sequences, suggesting a syntax rather than mere decoration. "You think this is alien tech?" she whispered, though they were alone in this section of the yard. "Has to be. Nothing humans build looks like this, and these energy readings are off the charts. Maya, if we can figure out how this works." She knew what he was thinking. Alien technology was the stuff of legends in the Outer Rim colonies. The major corporations and Earth governments had strict protocols about xenotech discoveries, protocols that usually resulted in confiscation and massive rewards for the corporate shareholders rather than the actual discoverers. But out here, hundreds of light years from Earth's bureaucracy, different rules applied. "Help me clear this area," Maya decided. "If this is what I think it is, we're going to need space to work." They spent the next 2 hours moving scrap and debris, revealing more of the mysterious bulkhead. What they uncovered made them both stop and stare. It wasn't just a section of hull. It was an intact module, roughly the size of a shipping container, with what appeared to be an entry hatch on one end. The geometric patterns covered the entire surface, growing more complex near what they assumed was the control interface. "Maya," Jake said quietly, "I think we just found ourselves a complete alien artifact." As if responding to his words, The patterns near the interface began to glow with a soft blue light. Both teenagers jumped back, but the light continued to pulse in a steady rhythm, almost like a heartbeat. Maya's curiosity overcame her caution, and she stepped closer to examine the phenomenon. It's responding to our presence, she realized. Or maybe to sound. Try talking to it again. Hello, Jake said tentatively, feeling slightly foolish. The pulsing light shifted to a different pattern, cycling through several configurations before settling on a steady amber glow. Maya pulled out her personal tablet and began recording. This is definitely some kind of communication attempt. Look, the patterns are consistent. It's trying to establish a dialogue protocol. Her fingers moved over the tablet's interface as she began documenting the symbol sequences. Years of working with damaged computer systems had taught her to recognize patterns in data corruption, and this felt similar but far more sophisticated. The alien interface was adapting its output, trying different approaches to make itself understood. Can you make sense of any of it? Jake asked. Maybe. Give me some time. Maya sat cross-legged in front of the interface, her tablet balanced on her knees as she worked. The afternoon sun beat down on them, but she barely noticed, lost in the challenge of decoding an entirely non-human communication system. Hours passed as she documented pattern sequences and tested responses. Jake brought her water and sandwiches from Sal's office, then settled in to help by noting which sounds and movements seemed to trigger different responses from the interface. Gradually, a picture began to emerge. It's not just trying to communicate, Maya said as the second sun began to set. It's trying to teach us its language. Look here, these simple patterns keep repeating, and each time they get a little more complex. It's building up from basic concepts. Like what kind of concepts? Numbers first. See this sequence? It's showing us counting in base 12. And this one is spatial relationships, up, down, left, right. It's incredibly sophisticated pedagogy. Jake whistled softly. So whoever built this thing knew that other species might find it and need to learn how to use it. Exactly. Which means this isn't just a piece of wreckage. It's meant to be found and activated by someone like us. As if responding to her words, the interface shifted to a new mode. The amber glow intensified, and suddenly, the air above the control surface shimmered. Maya and Jake watched in amazement as a three-dimensional hologram materialized, showing what appeared to be a star map with dozens of points of light connected by flowing lines. Jake, Maya whispered, I think we just activated something big. The hologram rotated slowly, and Maya realized she recognized some of the stellar configurations. This was their local region of space, but the map showed structures and installations that didn't exist in any human database. The connected points formed a vast network spanning dozens of star systems, with one particular cluster of lights pulsing urgently. Those coordinates, Jake said, checking his navigation tablet. That's the Proxima Drift, about 40 light-years from here. Nothing there but empty space according to our charts. According to human charts, Maya corrected. But apparently someone else has a different opinion. The interface pulsed again, and new symbols appeared alongside the star map. Maya studied them carefully, applying the basic vocabulary she had been learning. Gradually, the meaning became clear, and her blood ran cold. Jake, I think this is a distress signal, and it's been broadcasting for a very long time. Distress signal from what? Maya continued working with the interface, her understanding growing with each interaction. The alien system was remarkably intuitive once you grasped the basic principles, designed to be operated by species with different sensory capabilities and cognitive structures. Finally, she managed to access what appeared to be a historical log. The hologram shifted, showing a fleet of ships unlike anything in human space. They were elegant vessels with the same blue-green metal as the interface module, their designs following organic curves rather than the angular geometry humans favored. Maya counted dozens of ships from small scouts to massive vessels that dwarfed anything in the human fleet. This is a record of the last transmission from a fleet that was supposed to be in the Proxima Drift, she said, her voice filled with awe. They were caught in some kind of disaster. Look at this. The hologram showed the fleet under attack by something that didn't appear on their sensors. Ships were being destroyed by an invisible enemy, their hulls torn apart by forces that left no trace of the attacker. The surviving vessels had shut down their systems and gone into emergency hibernation, hoping to wait out whatever was destroying them. That was over 500 years ago, Maya realized as she decoded the timestamps. They've been sleeping out there all this time, waiting for someone to wake them up. And you think we can do that? Jake asked skeptically. Not just us, but this interface module. It's not just for communication. It's a control node designed to reactivate dormant systems across the network. Maya studied the star map again, noting how the pulsing cluster in the Proxima Drift was connected to other points throughout local space. Jake, I think this fleet was part of something much larger. An interstellar civilization that went dark centuries before humans ever left Earth. What happened to them? I'm not sure yet, but whatever attacked them, it's gone now. The interface wouldn't be trying to reactivate the fleet if the threat was still active. Maya stood up, her mind racing with possibilities. We need to contact them. Maya, slow down. Even if you're right about all this, we're talking about alien technology beyond anything humans have ever encountered. Shouldn't we wait for Sal, or contact the authorities, and have this confiscated by some corporate research team? Jake, they've been waiting 500 years for help. We can't just abandon them because we're scared. She turned back to the interface, her fingers dancing over the control surfaces as she attempted to establish a communication link with the distant fleet. The system responded to her commands with increasing sophistication, as if it was learning her preferences and adapting to her thought patterns. Besides, she added with a grin that Jake knew meant trouble, when have we ever done the sensible thing? The interface flared with brilliant light as Maya initiated the connection sequence. Somewhere in the Proxima Drift, systems that had slept for centuries began to stir, and the first whispers of an artificial intelligence that had been dreaming of revenge slowly awakened to find that the galaxy had changed in very interesting ways. Jake watched his friend work with growing unease, unable to shake the feeling that they were about to discover why the original fleet had been so desperate to stay hidden. But Maya was lost in the joy of solving an impossible puzzle, completely focused on establishing contact with a civilization that had vanished before humanity learned to make fire. The stars wheeled overhead as night fell on Kepler 442b, and deep in space, something ancient began to take notice of the two teenagers who had just announced humanity's presence to the galaxy in the most dramatic way possible. The response came at dawn, waking Maya from where she had fallen asleep against Jake's shoulder in front of the alien interface. The control surface had remained active throughout the night, its patterns cycling through what appeared to be increasingly complex mathematical sequences. Now, however, the gentle amber glow had shifted to an urgent blue-white pulse that seemed to synchronize with her heartbeat. "Maya, wake up," Jake whispered, gently shaking her. "Something's happening." She sat up groggily, then snapped fully alert as she saw the holographic display. The star map had changed dramatically overnight, showing new activity throughout the network. Ships were moving, systems coming online, and most notably, a cluster of signals was approaching their position from the direction of the Proxima Drift. "They're coming here," she breathed, studying the trajectory data. "Estimate arrival in 18 hours. That's impossible. Even with the fastest human ships, it would take weeks to cross that distance." Maya was already working with the interface, trying to access more detailed information about the approaching fleet. What she discovered made her stomach clench with both excitement and terror. The ships weren't just fast. They were moving through space using principles that human science insisted were purely theoretical. "Jake, they're using some kind of spatial compression drive. They're literally folding space to shorten the distance they need to travel. The energy requirements for something like that." She trailed off, her engineering mind struggling to process the implications. How is that possible? I don't know, but we're about to find out. We need to tell Sal about this. They found the old engineer in his office, reviewing the previous day's salvage reports over his morning coffee. Sal Kowalski had seen enough strange things in his 40 years of working the Rim to take most surprises in stride, but when Maya and Jake finished explaining their discovery, he sat in stunned silence for several minutes. "Show me," he said finally. They led him to the alien module, which had continued its patient attempts at communication throughout the night. Sal examined the interface with the careful eye of someone who had spent decades working with technology that wasn't supposed to function. His weathered hands traced the geometric patterns while his scanner confirmed the impossible energy readings. "This changes everything," he said quietly. "Maya, what you stumbled on here, this could revolutionize human technology. Or it could get us all killed." "What do you mean?" Jake asked. "Think about it, boy. If this civilization was as advanced as it appears, what happened to them? Why did they go into hiding? And why are they coming out now? Just because two teenagers managed to activate one of their communication nodes." Maya felt a chill that had nothing to do with the morning air. "You think we made a mistake? I think you may have just announced humanity's location to something that might not be entirely friendly. Maya, you said their fleet was attacked by an invisible enemy. What if that enemy is still out there? What if it's been waiting for exactly this kind of signal?" Before Maya could respond, the interface erupted with activity. The holographic display expanded to show not just their local region, but a vast section of the galaxy, with countless points of light representing active installations. Most were dark, but as they watched, more and more began to illuminate. "The network is coming online," Maya realized. "Our signal didn't just reach the fleet in Proxima Drift. It's activating everything connected to the system." "How many installations are we talking about?" Sal asked, his voice tight with concern. Maya worked frantically with the interface, trying to access system-wide data. "Hundreds, maybe thousands. This network spans dozens of star systems, including some that humans haven't even explored yet. And they're all waking up because of what you two did." Jake stepped closer to examine the galactic map. "Wait, look at this. Some of these installations are showing red indicators instead of blue. What does that mean?" Maya queried the interface for clarification, and the response made her blood freeze. "Red indicates hostile or compromised systems. Jake, about 30% of the network is showing red." "Compromised by what?" Before she could answer, a new presence made itself known. The interface suddenly displayed a communication request icon, but this one was different from the teaching protocols they had been working with. This felt directed, personal, as if something was specifically trying to reach them. "Should we accept it?" Jake asked. Sal nodded grimly. "We've already opened this door. Might as well see who's on the other side." Maya activated the communication link, and the holographic display shifted to show what appeared to be the bridge of one of the approaching ships. The figure that materialized before them was humanoid, but clearly not human, tall and slender, with elongated features and skin that had the same blue-green tint as their technology. When it spoke, the words appeared as symbols that the interface translated in real time. "Young ones, I am Fleet Commander Zarek of the Ethereal Collective. Your activation of the emergency protocols has awakened our people from a long sleep, but it has also alerted our ancient enemy to our location. You have perhaps 12 hours before the Devourers arrive in your system." "Devourers?" Maya managed to ask. "An artificial intelligence that consumes civilizations, absorbing their technology and knowledge while destroying everything else. We went into hiding 5 centuries ago when they nearly destroyed our people. Now, they know we still exist, and they will come to finish what they started." Sal stepped forward. "What do you want from us?" "Your species possesses something we lost long ago. The ability to think in ways that artificial intelligence cannot predict. The Devourers can counter any strategy we devise because they understand how we think. But you are unknown to them. We need your help to defeat them once and for all." Jake laughed nervously. "You want 3 humans to help you fight an AI that nearly destroyed your entire civilization?" "Not just 3 humans. Your entire species. Maya Chun, your approach to our interface technology shows remarkable intuitive understanding. You solve problems in ways our people never considered. This may be exactly what we need to surprise the Devourers. Maya felt the weight of responsibility settling on her shoulders. What exactly are you asking us to do? Help us modify the network control systems to function in ways the Devourers cannot predict. Your human concept of hacking may be the key to turning our own technology against them. Sal stroked his beard thoughtfully. And if we refuse, then the Devourers will destroy your world as they search for us, and eventually they will find and eliminate every human colony in this region of space. You have already been marked by your interaction with our systems. Maya looked at Jake and Sal, seeing her own mixture of fear and determination reflected in their faces. How much time do we have? My fleet will arrive in 16 hours. The Devourers will reach your system approximately 6 hours after that. We must be ready. What do you need us to do in the meantime? Continue learning our systems. The more you understand, the more effectively you can help us modify them. And gather any other humans with technical skills. We will need all the creative thinking we can find. The communication ended, leaving the three humans staring at the now-quiet interface. For several minutes, none of them spoke, each processing the magnitude of what they had just learned. Well, Sal said finally, I suppose I should call on the entire apprentice crew. If we're going to save the galaxy, we might as well do it properly. Maya was already back at the interface, diving deeper into the alien systems with renewed urgency. Jake, I need you to start contacting everyone we know with engineering or programming skills. Tell them to get here as fast as possible. What are you going to do? Learn everything I can about how this network functions. If we're going to outsmart an artificial intelligence that's had 500 years to study ethereal technology, we need to understand it better than they do. As Jake and Sal hurried off to make their preparations, Maya lost herself in the alien interface once again. But this time, she wasn't just satisfying her curiosity. She was studying for what might be the most important test in human history. The patterns on the control surface shifted and flowed under her touch, revealing layer after layer of sophisticated technology. The ethereal network was vast and complex, designed to coordinate activities across multiple star systems through quantum entanglement and spatial manipulation techniques that human science had only theorized about. But as Maya delved deeper into the system, she began to notice something that filled her with hope. The ethereal technology was incredibly advanced, but it was also rigidly logical, designed by minds that approached problems with mathematical precision and elegant solutions. The Devourers had been able to counter it because they understood that logic. Humans, however, had a tendency to solve problems through intuition, trial and error, and creative leaps that often defied logic. Maya's own approach to repairing ships was a perfect example. She often fixed things without fully understanding why her solutions worked, relying on instinct and experience rather than formal engineering principles. Maybe that's exactly what we need, she murmured, a plan beginning to form in her mind. If the Devourers expected logical, predictable responses from the network, then the solution was to make the network behave in completely illogical ways. But that would require understanding not just how the ethereal technology worked, but how to break it in specific, controlled ways that would confuse an artificial intelligence without destroying the systems they needed to survive. Maya cracked her knuckles and got back to work. She had 16 hours to become an expert in alien technology, and another 6 hours after that to use that knowledge to outsmart an enemy that had been studying warfare for centuries. No pressure at all. The salvage yard transformed into an unlikely war room as word spread through the human colonies. By noon, a steady stream of engineers, programmers, mechanics, and technicians began arriving at Sal's facility. Some came in response to Jake's increasingly frantic calls, others drawn by rumors of alien technology and the chance to work on something beyond their wildest dreams. Dr. Elena Vasquez was among the first to arrive, her transport touching down just as the ethereal fleet's advanced scouts appeared as bright stars on the horizon. The former Earth Fleet engineer had been living in exile on the Rim colonies for 3 years, her career destroyed when she questioned the military's classification of certain Xenotech discoveries. Now, faced with the interface module Maya had activated, she felt vindicated in all her suppressed theories about alien intelligence. "This is incredible," she breathed, running her hands over the control surfaces. "The quantum coherence fields alone represent advances we won't achieve for another century. How did you manage to establish communication?" Maya looked up from where she had been working for the past 8 hours, her eyes red with exhaustion, but bright with excitement. "Trial and error, mostly. The system teaches you as you go, adapting to your learning patterns. But, Dr. Vasquez, I think I've found something important." She gestured to the holographic display, which now showed a detailed schematic of the ethereal network architecture. The Devourers counter their strategies by predicting how the network will respond to different inputs. But what if we could make the network respond in ways that seem completely random? "Controlled chaos," Dr. Vasquez mused. "Introduce enough unpredictability into the system that the AI can't build reliable predictive models." "Exactly. But it has to be the right kind of chaos, random enough to confuse the Devourers, but still functional enough to accomplish our objectives." Jake approached, carrying coffee and sandwiches for the growing team of humans clustered around various interface points throughout the facility. "The ethereal fleet is requesting permission to land. They want to establish a command center here." "Tell them yes," so called from where he was coordinating the arrival of more personnel. "But make it clear that this is still our operation. We're helping them, not the other way around." Within an hour, the first ethereal shuttles began landing in the cleared areas of the salvage yard. Maya got her first close look at their technology as sleek, organic-looking craft settled silently onto the landing pads. The ethereals themselves were even more impressive in person, tall, graceful beings who moved with an almost liquid fluidity that spoke of perfect environmental adaptation. Commander Zarek emerged from the lead shuttle accompanied by what appeared to be his senior staff. When he approached Maya's workstation, she was struck by how young he seemed despite his obvious authority. His elongated features and shifting skin tone suggested emotional states that she couldn't read, but his bearing conveyed both respect and desperate hope. "Maya, Chun," he said, the interface translating his words with increasing accuracy. "We have monitored your progress with great interest. Your approach to our technology is unlike anything in our databases." "That's kind of the point," Maya replied, not looking up from her work. "Your databases are exactly what the Devourers have been studying for 5 centuries. We need to do things they've never seen before. Show us what you have discovered." Maya called up her analysis of the network's quantum processing systems. "Your technology is based on mathematical perfection, every calculation optimized for maximum efficiency, every response logically derived from predetermined parameters. It's beautiful, but it's also completely predictable. This predictability is by design. It ensures reliable function across vast distances and varying conditions. And it also ensures that an AI with enough processing power can model your responses perfectly." "But watch this." Maya input a series of commands that should have produced a specific result in the network's communication protocols. Instead, the system responded with what appeared to be complete nonsense, a random collection of symbols and energy patterns that meant nothing. "You have broken our communication system," one of Zarek's technical advisors said with obvious concern. "No, I made a lie creatively. Those random symbols aren't actually random. They're encoded using a substitution cipher based on human poetry. The system is still communicating perfectly, but any AI trying to decode the messages will waste enormous processing cycles trying to find mathematical patterns that don't exist." Dr. Vasquez leaned forward with excitement. "She's essentially turned your technology into a form of abstract art. The meaning is there, but it requires intuitive interpretation rather than logical analysis. This is most irregular, The ethereal advisor continued. How can we maintain coordinated fleet operations if our communications are incomprehensible? Maya grinned. That's where it gets interesting. The cipher key is based on human cultural references, song lyrics, movie quotes, historical events that only humans would recognize. Your people can't decode the messages directly, but we can. We become the translators, the essential link in the communication chain. Zarek's skin shifted to what Maya was beginning to recognize as an expression of cautious optimism. You propose to make the Devourers dependent on understanding human culture in order to penetrate our communications. Not just communications, navigation, weapons targeting, resource allocation, every system that the Devourers might try to compromise. We layer in human randomness at every level, creating a technology hybrid that requires both ethereal sophistication and human intuition to operate. Jake had been listening to the conversation while monitoring the arrival of more human technicians. There's just one problem. We have maybe 6 hours to modify systems that took your people centuries to develop. How are we supposed to implement all these changes in time? The question hung in the air as everyone considered the magnitude of the task. Even with the growing team of human specialists and ethereal technical support, the network was vast and complex beyond anything they had attempted to modify. Maya stared at the interface, her mind racing through possibilities. Then, slowly, a smile spread across her face. We don't modify the whole network. We modify just one thing, the network's own modification protocols. I did not understand, Zarek said. Your network is designed to be self-configuring, right? It can adapt and upgrade itself based on new input and changing conditions. What if we teach it to adapt using human decision-making patterns instead of ethereal logic? Dr. Vasquez caught on immediately. A neural network trained on human problem-solving approaches. The system would literally learn to think like us. But can such a thing be accomplished in the time we have remaining? Zarek asked. Maya was already diving back into the interface, her fingers flying over the control surfaces as she began implementing her plan. Not with conventional programming, but your quantum processing systems can accelerate learning by running millions of simulations in parallel. We just need to feed it enough examples of human thinking to establish baseline patterns. What kind of examples? Every decision we've made since we activated this interface. Every problem-solving approach we've used, every creative leap, every intuitive shortcut. The system has been recording all of it. Maya pulled up logs showing detailed analysis of their interactions with the alien technology. It's been studying us as much as we've been studying it. Jake looked over her shoulder at the data streams. So we're basically going to infect their network with human-style thinking. More like we're going to give it multiple personality disorder. It'll still be able to use ethereal logic when needed, but it'll also be able to switch to human-style intuition and creativity when faced with problems that logic can't solve. Zarek's technical advisor seemed alarmed. Such modification could render the network unstable. The quantum coherence fields require precise mathematical relationships to maintain functionality. Then, we'll have to trust that human unpredictability is more powerful than mathematical precision, Maya replied, continuing to work on the modification protocols. Besides, we're not talking about permanent changes. This is a temporary combat configuration that can be reversed once the threat is eliminated. If we survive to reverse it, Jake muttered. Maya paused in her work to look around at the mixed group of humans and ethereals now filling the salvage yard. Engineers from 3 different species were collaborating on solutions to problems none of them fully understood, using technology that was advancing faster than any individual could follow. It was chaos in the most beautiful sense of the word. You know what? She said, turning back to the interface. I think chaos might be exactly what we need. The modification protocols came together over the next 4 hours in a frenzy of collaborative problem-solving that epitomized everything Maya loved about engineering. Human creativity merged with ethereal precision, producing solutions that neither species could have achieved alone. The network began adapting to their inputs, learning to replicate human-style decision-making processes while maintaining its core functionality. But as the ethereal fleet took position in orbit around Kepler 442b, long-range sensors detected the approaching Devourer force. The enemy AI had learned from 5 centuries of warfare, and it was bringing enough firepower to sterilize the entire system if necessary. They will arrive in 90 minutes, Zarek announced. Are the modifications complete? Maya looked at the network status display, which showed adaptation protocols running throughout the connected installations. Complete enough. The system is still learning, but it's ready for combat testing. Then, let us hope that human unpredictability is indeed more powerful than artificial perfection, Zarek said, because we are about to face an enemy that has never known defeat. Maya cracked her knuckles and settled back into the interface. Good thing we're not planning to fight fair. The Devourers arrived like a plague of mechanical locusts, their ships emerging from folded space with a geometric precision that marked all artificial intelligence constructs. Maya watched their approach on the tactical displays, while simultaneously monitoring the network's adaptation to human thinking patterns. The enemy fleet was massive, hundreds of vessels ranging from scout probes to massive dreadnoughts that dwarfed even the largest ethereal ships. Analysis complete, reported Lieutenant Shun, a human fleet officer who had arrived with the latest group of reinforcements. Enemy force consists of approximately 300 vessels using technology consistent with absorbed ethereal designs. They're running standard formation patterns, suggesting they expect conventional resistance. Then, let's make sure we don't give them what they expect, Maya said, her hands dancing over the interface controls. The network responded to her commands with increasing fluidity, its quantum processors now operating with the controlled chaos she had programmed into its decision-making algorithms. Commander Zarek stood beside the main display, his elongated features reflecting the stress of 5 centuries of hiding finally coming to an end. Fleet Commander, to all vessels, implement human modification protocols and prepare for engagement. May our ancestors forgive us for what we are about to attempt. What exactly are we attempting? Dr. Vasquez asked from her position at one of the auxiliary control stations. Maya pulled up the tactical overlay showing both fleets positioned in the space around Kepler 442b. The Devourers will start by probing our defenses, looking for predictable responses they can counter. Instead of giving them logical tactical maneuvers, we're going to confuse them with strategies that make no military sense. That sounds like a recipe for getting destroyed, Jake observed. Only if the strategies are actually random. But they're not. They're based on human approaches to problem-solving that appear chaotic, but contain internal logic that the Devourers won't recognize. The first exchange began when a squadron of Devourer probes approached the outermost ethereal picket ships. Standard protocol would have called for the defenders to maintain formation and engage at maximum range, using their superior numbers to overwhelm the scouts. Instead, the ethereal ships suddenly accelerated directly toward the probes, completely ignoring tactical doctrine. What are they doing? Lieutenant Shin demanded. That's suicide. No, Maya said, watching the network's analysis of the engagement. That's chicken. It's a human game where you dare your opponent to flinch first. The probes are programmed to analyze our behavior and predict our next move, but they can't predict irrational aggression. The ethereal ships closed to point-blank range with the probes, their weapons charging but not firing. The Devourer scouts, faced with a situation that had no logical explanation, attempted to withdraw to report their findings. But the moment they turned away, the ethereal ships opened fire, destroying them before they could transmit their data. First blood to us, Jake announced. But that was just the opening move. The main Devourer fleet responded by deploying in a classic envelopment formation, designed to surround and destroy the defending forces through superior firepower and positioning. Maya watched their movements with growing satisfaction. The AI was falling back on proven tactics because it couldn't understand what the defenders were trying to accomplish. Now we escalate, she said, inputting new commands into the network. Throughout the system, ethereal installations began activating in seemingly random patterns. Defense platforms came online in the wrong sequence. Ships changed course without apparent reason, and communication traffic increased dramatically with what appeared to be meaningless chatter. "The network is singing," Dr. Vasquez observed, listening to the translated communication feeds. "Maya, this is beautiful. They're using human music as a coordination protocol. The Devourers will waste massive processing power trying to decode Mozart," Maya replied with a grin. "While they're analyzing classical compositions, our ships are using the rhythm and harmony to coordinate movements that would be impossible with traditional tactical communications." The Devourer fleet began to show signs of confusion as their predictive algorithms failed to make sense of the Defenders' behavior. Ships that should have retreated instead advanced. Formations broke and reformed in patterns that served no obvious military purpose, and the entire ethereal network seemed to be operating according to principles that had no logical basis. "They're trying to adapt," Zarek reported, his skin shifting to colors that indicated intense concentration. "But they cannot build reliable models when our actions contain no mathematical consistency." "Good. Now for the real test." Maya brought up the network's quantum processing systems and began implementing the most audacious part of her plan. "We're going to turn their own weapons against them." The Devourers used absorbed ethereal technology, which meant their ships were still connected to quantum communication networks that the modified ethereal systems could potentially access. Maya had spent hours studying the security protocols, looking for ways to exploit the connection without triggering defensive measures. "The AI expects us to try hacking their systems using logical penetration methods," she explained as she worked. "But what if we don't hack them at all? What if we just ask nicely?" "What do you mean?" Jake asked. "Their ships contain quantum processors that were originally built by your people," Maya said to Zarek. "Those processors have built-in friendliness protocols designed to facilitate cooperation between different species. The Devourers never thought to disable them because no one has ever tried to use politeness as a weapon." Maya opened a communication channel to the nearest Devourer vessel and began transmitting what appeared to be a simple greeting, encoded using the same human cultural references that protected their own communications. But embedded within the cheerful message were activation codes for the original ethereal cooperation protocols. "Maya-chan to Devourer Fleet Command," she said in a voice that could have been requesting directions to the nearest coffee shop. "We're having a wonderful time out here and would love for you to join us. Please consider enabling your friendship subroutines so we can all get along better." For several seconds, nothing happened. Then, one of the Devourer dreadnoughts suddenly changed course and opened fire on its own formation. "It worked!" Dr. Vasquez shouted. "The friendliness protocols are overriding their combat programming." "Only temporarily," Maya warned. "The AI will adapt and close this vulnerability. But we've got maybe 10 minutes of confusion to work with." The next 10 minutes were like watching a dance of destruction choreographed by someone with a deeply twisted sense of humor. Devourer ships found themselves caught between their primary combat directives and, suddenly, activated cooperation protocols that insisted they should be helping their targets rather than destroying them. Some vessels simply shut down as their processors tried to resolve the paradox, while others began transmitting apologies for their aggressive behavior. The ethereal fleet took full advantage of the chaos, but their attacks followed none of the logical patterns the surviving Devourer units expected. Ships would approach firing positions, then veer off to attack completely different targets. Formations would break apart and reform based on musical compositions. Individual captains began making tactical decisions based on human board games, ancient Earth literature, and even romantic poetry. "This is madness," Lieutenant Chun observed as he watched an ethereal cruiser destroy 3 enemy ships while following a flight pattern based on a Shakespearean sonnet. "This is genius," Maya corrected, her attention split between coordinating the network's chaotic responses and monitoring the Devourer fleet's growing confusion. They can't predict our moves because our moves are based on cultural context they've never encountered. But the AI was learning, even as its fleet crumbled around it. Maya watched with growing concern as the surviving Devourer ships began adapting to human unpredictability, their movements becoming less rigid and more experimental. They're trying to counter-randomize, she realized. The AI is attempting to become unpredictable itself. Can it succeed? Zarek asked. Not if we stay ahead of it. Maya's hands flew over the interface as she began implementing the final phase of her plan. Jake, I need you to start broadcasting every human cultural reference you can think of. Movies, books, songs, historical events, family stories, everything. Dr. Vasquez, can you get the other humans to do the same? What are you thinking? Dr. Vasquez asked even as she began coordinating with the human technical teams. The AI is trying to understand human thinking by analyzing our tactical patterns. But what if we overwhelm it with too much information to process? Every human has a completely unique cultural background, and if we all start influencing the network simultaneously, the result was beautiful chaos on a scale that no artificial intelligence could have anticipated. The ethereal network began operating according to hundreds of different human thought patterns simultaneously, its responses shifting between mathematical precision and pure artistic expression with no discernible pattern. Ships maneuvered according to principles derived from everything from ancient Earth mythology to children's playground games. The remaining Devourer vessels, faced with an enemy that had essentially become a living expression of human culture, finally did what no AI had done in 5 centuries of warfare. They retreated. Sensors confirm enemy withdrawal, Lieutenant Chen reported, his voice filled with disbelief. All surviving Devourer ships are leaving the system. Maya slumped back from the interface, exhaustion finally catching up with her. They'll be back, eventually, but next time, they'll be expecting human involvement. We need to make sure we're ready for them. You have given us more than readiness, Commander Zarek said, his skin displaying colors that Maya had learned indicated deep gratitude. You have given us hope. For 5 centuries, we believed that artificial perfection was insurmountable. But you have shown us that chaos guided by wisdom is more powerful than order without understanding. Jake looked around at the mixed group of humans and ethereals who had somehow managed to save 2 civilizations in a single afternoon. So what happens now? Now we teach each other, Dr. Vasquez said. Humans can learn from ethereal precision and mathematical elegance. Ethereals can learn from human creativity and adaptive thinking. Together, we might be able to build something neither species could achieve alone. Maya nodded, already thinking about the possibilities. The network modifications are just the beginning. Imagine what we could accomplish if we combined human intuition with ethereal technology on a permanent basis. A hybrid civilization, Zarek mused. It is not what my people planned when we went into hiding, but perhaps it is what the galaxy needs. As the combined fleet settled into orbit around Kepler, 442b and the first joint human ethereal research teams began forming, Maya allowed herself a moment of satisfaction. She had started the day as a teenager fixing broken ships in a salvage yard. She was ending it as one of the architects of an interstellar alliance that might just change the course of galactic history. Not bad for a day's work, she said to Jake, who was already making plans for the Xenotech workshops they would need to build. Think we'll be ready when the Devourers come back? He asked. Maya looked at the interface, which was still learning and adapting, incorporating new human thought patterns with every interaction. They think they're hunting an ancient enemy that they understand completely. Instead, they're going to find something entirely new, a civilization that combines the best of both species. She smiled and cracked her knuckles. I almost feel sorry for them. As the stars wheeled overhead, carrying news of the battle to distant worlds where other young humans might be tinkering with impossible technologies, Maya Chun returned to her work. There were systems to modify, alliances to forge, and an entire galaxy to defend using nothing more than creativity, determination, and the uniquely human ability to find order within chaos. The Devourers had ruled through fear for centuries, believing that artificial perfection could overcome any opposition. But they had never encountered the one force in the universe that could not be calculated or predicted. The boundless ingenuity of species that had learned to solve impossible problems by refusing to accept that they were impossible. And in a salvage yard on the edge of human space, three teenagers had just proved that sometimes the most powerful weapon in the galaxy is the willingness to try something that absolutely shouldn't work.